Okay, I'd like to welcome everyone to this week's edition of Imperial as One's Belonging series, where we explore the experiences of people from different ethnic minority backgrounds. And this week, we really have a pleasure of having Rafael dos Santos.
Hold on. The Joyce. Okay, got it. There we go. Okay. Sorry, guys. Sorry, I'm on the phone and the message is coming through, so I'm in.
All right. We've got Rafael dos Santos with us. And Rafael is a multi-award-winning entrepreneur, a TED speaker, an author, a marketing and PR expert. I'm not going to steal his thunder, all right, because he's got a lot which he can tell us about how his journey and experience has brought him to where he is right now. And I know that he's going to share that with us and give us some of the nuggets of wisdom which he has accomplished over this time. So Rafael, I want to just say a big thank you for joining us.
Oh, sorry guys, this phone, hold on a second. Oh, the joys of this phone. Okay. Right. There we go. I'm in. I'm going to try not to move anymore, I promise.
No worries.
So thank you for the invite. I mean, what I start, we were online just now and it's like, okay, now we're going live and boom, the internet goes because the builder cut the cable. Never mind. So my name is Rafael. I'm very happy to be here. It's my second time with Imperial. So I'm originally Brazilian, been in the UK now for 20 years, even though I still look 18. I know people will say that. The joys of Botox. So I'm here, and thank you for inviting me. I think I am Brazilian. Yes, hi Clarissa. So talking about belonging is very close to my heart. Mm-hmm. It's one of the things that it took me a long time to find, to find a tribe that I belong. And I will explain there are different ways that we can belong. But I wait for you to come. So I'll talk a little bit about my background. So when I arrived in the UK, I couldn't speak English. So I came to study English initially. Being here now for 20 years. I have 4 books published. Now I'm going to publish my 5th. I've won since I arrived in the UK. I started as a kitchen porter, so I washed a lot of dishes in Notting Hill. It was in the restaurant that I worked. Made my way up, learned English, gave a TED talk called What It Takes to Be a Migrant Entrepreneur, won an award for it. And then I won an award from the Sunday Times at the top 100 most inspiring entrepreneurs in the UK, won an award from the Guardian as Startup Leader of the Year, and won an European pitching competition, so the best business pitch in Europe. So I won in the UK and then I won the European one. So these are the things that I'm very proud of, but I'm very proud to be Brazilian, to belong to the Brazilian community, and that's where the feathers and the happiness and the sunshine and the hugs come from. I'm also personally, I also think that I achieved, I've been married for 12 years. So I think for me, it's also an achievement to be married, to be in a very loving relationship. And now we have a dog called Morena, because she's all brown. So brown, Morena means brown in Portuguese.
Yeah.
So I think there are lots of things, a lot of people say they're very proud of the achieved work-wise. I think we have to celebrate. I have wonderful friends, and I also have wonderful family and niece and dog and husband that I celebrate.
All right. So thank you for that kind of like overview. Could I just ask a couple questions about, I always like to start off by asking the question about where you get that initial sense of belonging, that sense of identity. So if we go back into like childhood and start from like the family dynamics, where was it that you got your sense of belonging, who you were, your identity from at that stage, and how did that change throughout as we go through the years?
Sure. So growing up, it was very hard. I'm a millennial, so I was born in the last year of the millennium. It starts in 1981, and growing up in the 80s in Brazil was very hard because I was very feminine as a child, as a boy. So I was bullied a lot, bullied to the point of being beaten up at school. Right. So I never felt I belonged there. So I thought there was something wrong with me. I was, I never understood why I didn't like playing football. I didn't want to play, I didn't want to play He-Man. I wanted to be with the girls and, play dolls. And so I suffered a lot my whole childhood because of that. And I come from very, very humble background. My father is a fisherman. My mom is a housewife. So nobody really understood what was wrong with me. And I always heard there is something wrong with him. There is something wrong with it. And there's something wrong. Then what came up was obviously I'm gay. And it was only at the age of 18 that it's not that I found where I belonged. I understood what was different. Obviously,
Right.
you know what is different. But it was only, I had to leave my country to find somewhere where I felt I actually belong.
Right.
So I left Brazil and I arrived in the UK at the age of 20.
Yeah.
And it was in London that I actually felt I belong here, because I was accepted, I wasn't judged. I had friends who loved me for who I was, for for my personality and for my authenticity. And wasn't an easy journey, because I left Brazil very angry, very scarred, I hated my country and I hated my people because of what they did to me.
Right.
And because I was young, I didn't understand why my parents didn't protect me, but because nobody knew how to deal with that. I think that's reality. So I worked on that. I did a lot of healing. I did constellation therapy. I did therapy. I did group therapy. A lot of meditation. So there was a lot of work for me to release those negative feelings and truly understand and forgive what happened.
Right.
So then that's when the sense of belonging is like, okay, now I know where I belong.
Right.
And the sense of belonging is you never belong entirely somewhere.
Right.
And this is an explanation that I always give to people. So I always give this explanation. I like making people imagine what I'm saying. So imagine that your life is a chest of drawers, right?
Right. Yeah.
And your chest of drawers will have several drawers.
Yeah.
So you have the drawer, for example, I have the drawer where I have the gay life. So I have my gay friends and we make gay jokes. And so that's one part. So I belong to that community, the LGBT community. But also there is a drawer in my chest of drawers of life where I belong to the Brazilian community. So it's all about the feathers, the carnival, the laugh, the hug, the warmth of people. So that's part of me. And then there is the entrepreneurial community. So let's talk about business, let's be ambitious, let's achieve, let's sell, let's do marketing.
Yeah.
So there are, and that is the family community. So how I talk to my mom and my niece, and how important my role is with my sisters, and when there is family drama like everyone else has, how do you play that role where sometimes you are in the drama, sometimes you have to stop the drama. So, and this is a drawer in the chest of drawer of life. Yeah. And then there is everything. So, there is the religious drawer. There is a holiday drawer. You have friends that you go on holiday. And so there is the activism, that is the charity side. So we belong to several of those groups and communities. Yeah. So we need to choose how we dedicate our time and which flag we fly. I don't fly the LGBT flag because I made peace with that part of me and with everyone else. And I forgave everyone for hurting me, for beating me up. Yeah. Okay. Now but I fly the flag of the migration, because it's something that I felt. It's something that I moved from Brazil to the UK, and I was, in a way, I wouldn't say I was poor, because I think poor is very relative on how you see poverty, right? But for UK standards, I didn't have money to take the tube, I didn't have money to go to restaurants, and so I was relatively poor. So in that sense, I then made my career to be able to belong to middle class. Right. So there is another belonging there. Yeah. And then, everything that comes with it. Yeah. So I think now I'm very happy where I belong, because I'm happy with myself. And I think it's one of the things people need to truly be happy with themselves, who they are, and accept how they are. Obviously, you can improve. I have 3 plastic surgeries. It's not that I love to myself. I'll tell my mom, I had factory faults that I had to correct, but it's not that I dislike myself, but that I'm still vain. So, the draw of vanity I have, because it's the Brazilian in me. So, I had my ears done, I had liposuction, I do this and I do that. But it's not that I hated myself, it's just I want to improve, right? So I think that sense of, going back to the sense of belonging, once you are truly happy with yourself, or you take action to make sure that you are okay with yourself and you're happy. And that's when you can belong anywhere. And that's when your chest of drawers will have many more drawers. Because once you are happy there, you are happy in the Brazilian community, in the LGBT community, in the Black community, because I have Black blood. My great-grandfather is from Nigeria. And when I tell people, just because I'm white, and I say, I can be in any community now, and I feel comfortable because I'm comfortable with who I am.
Right. It's very interesting, because a question was asked me just before you came in, which was asking me about what about my sense of belonging. And my answer was very similar to yours, in that having that sense of who you are is always important, because as you have highlighted, that idea about belonging to different tribes, and within each of those different tribes there'll be a different, would you say that you express yourself differently within those?
Yeah, and you have a different role. Like, for example, in the Brazilian community, I'm a leader in the Brazilian community, right? So my role there is different from the LGBT community, where I'm just in the audience. I'm not a leader. I don't have a voice, right? While in my family, which is another community or another tribe, I have a voice, and it depends on the situation, your role will change. So you have to put yourself forward, or you just need to be in the background. So you need to decide. And I always tell people as well, because I give talks helping especially migrants, and I tell them, when you are depending on where you are, you need to know what to say and how to behave. You don't wear a suit to go to the beach, and you don't wear swimming trunks to go to the office.
That's right.
So you need to know how to behave, how to dress, and how to speak. And your role, it will be either front row or back row, depending on where you are. You need to make that decision. You need to have the emotional intelligence to understand when you are needed, when you need to be, I wouldn't say forceful, but when you need to be, what is the word? Well, when you have to lead, let's say, right? So, and sometimes you have to put your foot down and you say, this is what we are doing, right? So that's, I don't know if there's a very long answer, but
no, that's brilliant. I like the way that you touched on the fact about the migrant communities and the work or the book which you published. Now this isn't a promo show, but I'm going to promote it because it sounds and looks great. Move abroad, and moving one step at a time. And that was kind of like, when did you write that? And can you give us a little bit about the background as to why you felt it was necessary to actually write that book, and what's the main message?
So that was my first book, Moving Abroad One Step at a Time. So I launched it in Portuguese and Chinese and Spanish. And the book was a way for me to express and help people, because a lot of people are asking me, what it's like to move and what it's like. And a lot of people talk about the practical sides of moving, passport and clothes and areas to live and where you're going to go and the language you're going to learn. So these are all the practical sides, but this is only one part of you moving, right? And what I wanted people to understand is, when you move, you go through 5 phases. So my book has 5 chapters, which are the 5 phases of moving. And it goes back to belonging, which I'm going to touch upon. So the first phase is when you research. So you're researching where you're going, but the key thing to research, the first phase is why you are going, why you want to go. And there are 8 main reasons why people move. And I'm going to talk about the top 3. The number 1 is because they want to study or learn a language. That's the number 1 reason why people move countries. Number 2 is for work. And number 3 is for love. People either have their heart broken or they want to find love. It's amazing the number of people, and there are other reasons. But once you know the reason why you are moving, keep the reason in mind. And then phase number 2 is the research. Passport, area to live, what kind of food, money, the temperature of the country, how difficult the language it is, so the practical side. Phase number 3 is the most difficult one, is the one that once you get on that plane, and I always say it's like a snake changing skin. You will never be the same again. The moment that you board that plane is the moment that skin comes off and a new one comes in, and you are a completely new person. Because phase number 3 is the phase that's going to last longer. Is the phase where you are going to suffer loneliness at the beginning. You're going to miss your family. You're going to feel nostalgia. You're going to feel homesick. And it's a test to your resilience. And that's when you learn about resilience, and you learn, what it's like to live alone. And if you don't speak the language, I always say that it's like you are a child in an adult's body. You are unable to speak the language, but you know exactly what's happening, but you can't express yourself because you don't speak. So there is so much frustration and anger that happens during that first 3 to 6 months, lots of tears. But once you get over that, that's when you start, okay. And then you start understanding the local culture. So that third phase lasts a long time, to a point where it's either 1 or 2 years, where you decide to upgrade. So phase number 4 is the upgrade. If you're in the country for a long time, you get a better job, you speak the language better, you start taking taxis, going to nicer restaurants, you go to the cinema. So there are lots of things that you start doing that you were not doing in your country beforehand. And so this is phase number 4. And then phase 5 is the phase of what do you want to do after 3 or 4 years? So that's the phase of decision. Do I want to stay in this country and then my roots are getting deeper and deeper? Or do I want to go back to my country, or I want to go to a new country? It's a phase that people, I've been here for 20 years. I don't think I'm going to stay in the UK forever, but I'm happy here, and the roots are, you get a mortgage, you get married, you get a dog, and then you do an MBA, and all the things that I did, that your roots get deeper and deeper and deeper. But that sense of belonging, which you then, so that's one thing that I want to touch upon, is you then develop a third culture, which is, so I'm Brazilian and I know what Brazil has best, right? But when you move, you start criticizing your culture. Oh, but Brazil is this, but they're so rude and they do this and they're always late. And so you start seeing the faults that you didn't see before in your own culture. And then you start comparing with the culture where you are. So like, for example, the one in the UK. But with time, what you do is you develop a third culture, which is the best of both worlds. So I still hug people and I'm still very warm, but now I get on time to my events, which I didn't before, because the Brazilian culture is that you are always late. So, so you learn things like, and then at the beginning, while you feel a little bit lost, as if you don't belong there because, you were in a new culture and that, slowly you start molding this third culture. And that's when you start feeling at home. And that's when you feel that you belong there. Like when people ask where you're from, I say, I'm Brazilian, but I feel very British because I feel at home here. And feeling at home is the sense of belonging where you are.
Right. That's brilliant. That's guys, we've got a tutorial there, a live tutorial on the book in terms of, I love the idea of the different phases and going through those different transitions. Phase number 3, which you spoke about, the child, the move. The move. The move. The child in the adult's body, understanding but not being able to connect or articulate what it is that you want to do. And that's where, I suppose, if we're thinking about it, that might be the key point in terms of where you then, having established where your positionality is, that then leads into the idea, well, I'm going to upgrade from where I am to the next phase. And then from there, whether or not that upgrade is sufficient for you to take root and stay in the country. And as you said, as you put it, having the best of both worlds. All right. Okay. So, yeah, no
it's
worries.
my colleague from the radio station.
Yeah, you're right. Okay. So I like the way that that book was. So what were some of the, not repercussions, or what were some of the benefits which happened as a result of you publishing that book? And what was, I'm going to delve a little deeper. What was your reason for writing this book? What was the underlying reason?
So for me, it was strategic what I want to do. So there are two reasons why you launch a book. So one is obviously you become a published author. It shows your knowledge and expertise, but also raises your profile. So there is a perceived credibility to everyone, and you can see that's why all the celebrities have a book. Everyone in that sense will have a book. So for me was, how can I help a lot of people, but equally how can I raise my profile, so as a marketeer, as a professional, to be different from the others. So that's when that's why I decided to do it. So that it wasn't what can I say? It wasn't just vanity. Like a lot of people do books because of vanity. Mine was, I learned the power of authority being an author. So that's why now I have 4. So there's the 5th coming out. So it's for people to, I always give this advice whenever you have the opportunity, because it shows, obviously it shows the commitment. It shows that you're putting your knowledge in a structured way. And then once you publish, obviously you get, people talk about the books that you have. So I always advise people, if they want to stand out from the crowd and have more credibility within their profiles, they should be launching a book.
Right. So it was developing about your expertise, demonstrating your expertise, but with the strategic view. So this is almost like the upgrade.
Exactly. So that's phase number 4.
Yeah, it's the upgrade, to say this is, I'm putting myself in the shop window, show people what, and then show that I can be part of this society, and I've got expertise which enable me to be a benefit to everybody.
Yes.
So I like that idea. So I'm going to just move on, because I just realized one, the time, but also I want to also just touch on your other book, because that's also about that sense of belonging, the one about the owl and the peacock. Can you give us that analogy? Because I really like that one.
I always, as a marketeer and PR professional, I help people to be featured in the media. So one of the things that I explain to professionals is that I compare them to owls. So owls are high skilled, very intelligent, but they're really hard to find. You don't see owls flying everywhere. So I tell them that they need to become peacocks, because when a peacock is in a park, and they open the tail, you can see the huge, beautiful tail of feathers. And the way that I also compare is that your profile, it's like a peacock tail. And the peacock tail is made of small, medium, and large feathers. And what makes your profile is not just your credibility in the sense of your credentials. It's not just, for example, I have an MBA, I have a diploma from the Chartered Institute of Marketing, but this is one type of feather that I have in the tail of my profile. I've also given lots of interviews. That's another type of feather. So everything that you do that gives you credibility and is tangible, you have to tell people. Like at the beginning, I said, I won an award from the Sunday Times, from TED, from The Guardian. These are all big feathers in the tail of my profile. But I also, I have smaller ones. I've given lots of interviews. I have a program on a radio station. So your profile will always have all of these types of feathers, and they are all important. No matter how small or big the feather are, remember that the peacock tail is only beautiful and visible because you have all types of feathers. That's really important to. So the book that I have, called From Owls to Peacocks, is the story of my first 50 clients when I was doing PR, when I do PR, and I interviewed them. So they understood, they all have been featured in the media. And they told the story of what was the main challenge they had and how they achieved success. And now they're in a book. So it's, it's their story. So that's the idea of Owls to Peacocks there.
No, the part which really gets me or really resonates with me is the fact that you can't just have all long feathers. You have to have that mixture. So it goes back to almost like your draw analogy, that you've got different facets for different parts. And in your profile as well, you also have different things which contribute to the whole, the entirety. Yeah.
I'll give an example. So for example, here, obviously, because Imperial is very famous and, it is a world's name and the credibility that it has, once I give this interview, I can go on my LinkedIn and I can put it there that I give. So this adds to my credibility, and obviously to Imperial is great having professionals like me. So it's a joint effort to where everyone wins. But it's how you use that to add feathers to your tail that is really important. And some people don't know. They think, oh, it was just a Zoom call. But if you know, it's all about storytelling. If you know how to broadcast that in a way, so that can be used to add another feather to your tail.
But, Rafael, I could sit here and I could ask question after question, but then the other people who are on the call with us, they'll be upset with me. So I'm going to open up the questions to see if there are any other questions. Otherwise, guys, I will continue to ask Rafael some questions. So is there anyone who has a question which they would like to ask Rafael at this point in time? Otherwise, I have another couple. All right. Okay. Normally they're all jumping, so I don't know what's happening.
So they might be typing. So maybe if you ask a question while they're typing.
Yeah, let's have a look. I've got a couple here actually. And then I love the analogy of the chest of drawers, because I feel sometimes pressure to fit my persona into one liner, but realistically there is so much we are each made up of, all of which are authentic, but we should be allowed to express different parts of ourselves in different settings. I had to remind myself a lot of that. How do you not feel in restraint in this rep?
Sorry, Wayne, I can't type.
Sorry.
Do you want to ask Clarissa?
Go on, Clarissa.
Yeah, so I mean, you kind of answered this anyway in terms of having that emotional intelligence, but something I've been discussing in therapy is feeling frustrated with the roles people put onto me, being the problem solver, being the bigger person. Like, how do you not feel restrained in those roles within your friendship group or even professionally?
I think because, so I'm going to answer for me, and then you take your take on it. Okay, so I'll talk about myself. So I think for me is I made the decision where if someone doesn't know what it is, I quickly take over, because I don't like wasting time. I don't like hanging around. So when I see a situation where people don't know what they are doing, I quickly go into the lead role. And I feel comfortable with that. And it's very funny that once people see that, and I see my group of friends, like I have WhatsApp groups where I have groups of gay friends, and they always start discussing and they go, Rafael, what do we do? so it gets to a point where then people start seeing you as the problem solver, and I think you just like, for example, with me, I just accepted the role, and I was like, okay, so that's how people see me. That's what they expect. This is what I do. And then the more you do, the more comfortable you feel, and the less work it is for you. Because I'll tell you, I'm married to a lawyer, right? And I don't know if you know, but lawyers don't make decisions. When you go to a lawyer, you say, look, this is my problem. The lawyer will say, okay, if you do this, this is going to happen. If you do this, so you have A, B, C. what you decide, A, B, C, there will be a reaction. Every action has a reaction. What would you like me to do? So at the beginning of my relationship, it was very frustrating, where I didn't want to be bossy, because I'm already the boss. I run a magazine, I run events. But what I realized was, with my husband, I made a decision. So every year, I say, look, we go to 5 new countries every year. And at the beginning of the year, I say, these are the 5 countries that I want to visit. Wherever we go, I'm happy. And then I say, this is how much we're spending per night in a hotel, and these are the cities I'd like to do. Then he goes, he makes the research, and he books everything, because he loves details. I hate details, but works, because I already made the decision. Here are the 5 countries that I want, and here's how much we're spending per night in a hotel. Now you can go and spend hours doing your research that you like. So you need to find a way where you feel comfortable in a role. I'm very comfortable in the leading role. When I have to be in the background, I am. But if I see a situation where people are not making decisions or nobody's taking that role, I'm very happy to step up. So there is no pressure anymore, because I made a decision, this is going to be my role. So you need to make that decision and then go with it and feel happy and feel comfortable. Don't let anyone put the pressure that you have to do it. And if you make the decision where you're always going to be in the background, then don't feel offended if no one ever calls you to be the lead role. Because if you decide that you want to be in the background, you will always be. So that's one thing, that's my advice to you.
Thank you. That's really helpful. I think, just finding that balance of kind of how to communicate and stuff like that.
Yeah. And always remember as well, like, for example, in my family, I don't have the lead role. It's always my mom. So I can't go against that. I will always make sure that I'm heard. But I think you need to also understand that in every tribe, let's put it that way, or every community, there is always a leader. You can advise the leader. Just a second. So yeah, it's just, I think what you need to understand is every community will have a leader. So you can either be the leader or you can advise the leader. So that's, or you can just sit in the background and let them do it. But you need to feel comfortable in whatever role you decide. Don't feel that there's pressure for you to do it. You have to make that decision.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for that question, Clarissa. Do we have any other questions? Otherwise, I will chime in with another one. Okay. So the question that I would like to ask you, Rafael, is, I suppose it's related to kind of like, you've given a lot of advice, right? And the advice which you gave to Clarissa, well, to all of us here just now was really informative. But what advice would you have given to your younger self? So when you're back in Brazil and you're making your decision, what advice would you have told, let's say, your 16-year-old self, about what they could be, what they could do, etc.?
I think the advice that I actually did, because I did regression, I did hypnosis and I did regression to be able to go through that. And I did give advice to myself, because when you go through bullying, like I did, and being beaten up and all the difficulties that I had, when you are bullied as a child, or when you grow up, you blame yourself. Right. Because you allowed others to do that to you. Yeah. And it's very common, whoever was bullied. And only when you go through therapy and a lot of work, you are able to tell yourself, it's not your fault. Right. So whoever is going through that or went through that, my advice to my younger self, which I did doing regression and hypnosis, was, it's not your fault. What they did to you, you should not need to forgive yourself, because it wasn't your fault. Right. So it's the same. So that's the advice that I give to everyone who also went through bullying.
I'm not gonna. We've run out of time, and I don't want to open up stuff with relations to bullying unless you wanted to. But how would you, just very quickly, right? In light of that, and having come through the process which you've come through, and you're having forgiven yourself, or got yourself to forgive yourself, to say that it wasn't my fault, what would you then say to others who, having gone through that, where they need to go next? What's the next step in that kind of like healing process?
I think to go through healing, no, I don't think anyone can go through healing by themselves. Okay. Right. And the first step is to acknowledge that happened, is to talk to someone. So either through a therapist or a counselor, or it starts with your best friend, because unfortunately, you need to open that can of worms, and they need to come out. And it's a very painful, there are lots of tears. It's a very, very difficult process.
Yeah.
And I couldn't speak about this before. I always cried when I tried. And now when I talk openly about it, because it took me, it took me a while. So those that have gone through that and they have the pain, therapy is not just for crazy people. And it's a taboo. It's like, oh, nobody talk, I do therapy every Monday. I see my therapist every Monday. She's in Brazil. And it's what keeps me sane, because sometimes you start thinking, or, you put, and those little monsters become huge monsters just because we are thinking about it. So for those who have gone through bullying or any sort of trauma, it's really important to find the right professional, and don't think that it's just for problematic people. And you don't need to tell anyone. I tell people now because I'm in a very, very good place. And I think talking about it and telling other people, because people see me, oh, so successful, my life is wonderful. It hasn't always been like this, but it is important for people to understand you need to look for help, and you need to talk, because it's only talking that you are able to forgive yourself and forgive others, and to have a fulfilling, happy life.
Rafael, I'm going to thank you so much for that. And for those real words of wisdom at the end about how we can process these kinds of things, which may have happened to us or may happen to us in the future. But yeah, it's been absolutely brilliant having you on. I would recommend, having just listened to the outlines of your two of the 4 books that you've got. And what's the next book which you've got coming out?
So I run the world's most prestigious awards in the Brazilian community at Kensington Palace. And every award that I run, I invite the finalists and the winners, and I write their stories. So I did the first one was at the Best of Brazil European Awards, which is now on Amazon. And then Best of Brazil American Awards, which was in the USA in May. And this year was the first in person. It was at Kensington Palace. I had the Queen of Congo, the Princess of Oman. I had Tessie Ojo from Princess Diana Award. So, it was an amazing event. I had 300 guests from 17 countries flying for the, it was amazing. It was so that's what I do now, as well as doing PR for, to get people in the media. I run the Best Brazil Global Awards for the Brazilian community, which is the most prestigious event today in the world for the Brazilian community. And every time I run my award, I launch a book with the finalist stories and the winners.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
So can you tell me a little bit about that awards, a little bit more about the awards? Is it for celebrities? Who are you targeting within that?
So that's why my award is very successful. So it is for the community. It is for the everyday people. So we have 25 categories: best chef, best accountant, best lawyer, best organization that helps the Brazilian community. And what I do is the other way around. It's actually the high profile friends that I have giving awards to the people, because everybody makes awards for celebrities because they want to be around celebrities, and mine was the other way around. So I had Brazil's most famous top model, not Gisele Bündchen, but Luisa Brunet, who is a household name. She presented the award with me. You know, Princess Basma from Oman gave an award, and you know, there's lots of high profile. The Queen of Congo was there. So they are giving to everyday people. So the best chef was from Norway, the best singer was from Australia. So for me is giving to the Brazilian community what I achieved, because I won an awards, you know, from Sunday Times and The Guardian and TED. So I know how that helps to motivate and inspire people to keep going, but also to recognize your work. And, you know, to give the prestige to everyday people that you don't need to be a Hollywood star to win an award. You can be a chef and you can be a lawyer, but because you do such an amazing job, the community voted for you, and then you win the award at Kensington Palace, which is the first time in history of the Brazilian history that it was an award inside a royal household.
That's brilliant. So you're actually bringing the community together, awarding the community, awarding the unsung heroes, and you're making them into,
exactly.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. That's to be applauded 100%.
Thank you.
I'm just afraid, so upset that we haven't got more time to even go into. So
my radio station, my show starts.
That's what I mean.
So I have to go.
But Rafael, that was absolutely brilliant and amazing, and keep up all the good work, and I'm gonna get everybody to
just one thing, if people want to connect with me, so you know, you can put that as well. So it's rafaeldossantos.com. So Rafael dos Santos SANTOS.com, and people can see my books there. They can see my TED talk, and obviously if they want to be featured in the media, or if they want to be part of the awards, if they know Brazilians and they want to be, you know, to invite them. January starts the Best of Brazil European Awards and the Best of Brazil American Awards. So
brilliant. Okay, Clarissa's just dropped it in the chat.
There we go. Thank you, Clarissa.
So that's brilliant. That's great. It's been absolutely great having you. I'm going to just advertise what's coming up next, but I'm sure that in the future we'll be having you back in if you would grace us with your presence to let us hear how you've continued this good work. Okay.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Just 1 second. Our guest next week is going to be our guest next week is going to be Professor Stephen Curry and Miss Anik Valley, and they're going to be talking about race equality at Imperial College. So please tune in. It's going to be something really quite interesting, really quite special next week. And if you haven't had a chance to see some of the other interviews which we've got, then please go to our YouTube channel, which is tinyurl.com/belonging-IAO. And you can then hear all about the other guests who have been on the show. But as for now, I just want to say another big thank you, and thanks for coming. Have a good weekend. And Rafael, thanks again for your time.
No problem. Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.